Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Alexander Let's Play. I am your host, Porkness. So, there are a couple strategies available to us on the outset of this scenario, but I'm afraid most of them end with your men fleeing over the horizon. What I found works best is to throw all your cavalry at the crossing on the right as soon as you can, and as fast as you can. So, let me tell you why that is. Memnon's army is still some distance away from the river, because he wasn't expecting us to attack so soon, I guess. The crossings are only defended at this point by his advance element of 3 units of cavalry. Because this campaign centers around your own exceptional phalanx spearmen, you might be tempted to send your infantry to seize the crossings. In any other scenario in the series, that would work perfectly, but the Granicus river in this one is apparently deep and fast-moving. In practical terms, this means that infantry can't keep their formation while crossing, and we all know a disordered phalanx is pretty much useless. So we use our cavalry. Even though we don't have the cavalry advantage on this map, if we send them all to a single crossing, we can still overwhelm the single unit there. We choose the one on the right because that's the one Alexander is closest to and arrives first. Whenever you're doing a cavalry charge in this game, you want Alexander at the front, as it was in history, because his unit is the hardest hitting. So, while your men are fighting their way up the east bank, your infantry are running for the crossing as fast as they can. You did remember to order your phalanxes to break formation so that they could move faster, right? And now the bad guys are on the run. It's now all about setting up your army on the east side of the crossing as fast as you can before Memnon and his army arrives. While you're doing this, you really have to be conservative with your cavalry. Don't try and be brave at this point. You'll probably just lose them. The enemy cavalry is still much better than yours, so try to avoid engaging them unless you absolutely have to, unless there's no other alternative. Now, you probably noticed earlier I had to give Alexander's unit the order 3 times in order for him to actually cross the river before he actually did it. Now he's run off chasing some skirmishers despite my ordering him to hang back with the rest of the cavalry. Alexander in this game kind of does what he wants. You really have to keep an eye on him. I was really lucky that he didn't get himself killed just now, and this is the point where I just realized he's done it. Memnon's thrown himself at our other 2 cavalry units. Alexander's still some distance behind, and we're still racing to get behind the crossing. It gets really messy at this point. It gets really chaotic. Don't be afraid to pause the game to issue orders, get your bearings. But above all else, your main objective is to set up your infantry, set your phalanxes up into a big long line of death, so that when the enemy army arrives, you have a wall of spear tips to point at them. A good recipe for a main battle line is to have your phalanxes in the front and high pacifists and ranged units immediately behind them. I'll explain in a minute the functional role high pacifists play in this game, but I've just broken off 2 phalanx units in order to aid in the massive cavalry skirmish that's going on. I really wasn't expecting all of my units to hold at this point. But Memnon was dumb enough to let himself get surrounded. He's going to be in a lot of trouble really shortly. The balance of forces is evenly matched. Neither side has really an advantage right now. Well, that'll change in a couple seconds.
Great God be praised! The enemy general is killed! Fear makes a home in our enemies' hearts!
Honestly, I wasn't expecting that to happen when I was playing this. Memnon is dead, so his army suffers a pretty big hit to morale. The fleeing units temporarily give us room to reorganize our men. Once we get a proper phalanx set up, we are unstoppable. So the first phase of this battle was to secure a crossing. I love that sound. First phase of this battle was to secure a crossing across the river. Second phase is to organize your pikemen into a big phalanx. Once you've got a line of death marching towards the enemy army, and there's no way they can get around you, you're pretty much unbeatable. We're not quite at that point, but soon you'll see the best of phalanx warfare. So this tactic I'm using right now, I will use throughout the campaign. Have your phalanges break formation, run up to the enemy as fast as they can, and then just a few feet before them, snap into a phalanx. If you time this right, you'll have a fast-moving battle line that can hit the enemy with the power of a phalanx, and there's really nothing they can do to stop it. it's kind of a general rule of this game that holds true up until the very end. Anything that is fighting your phalanxes head-on is going to lose. This is true even when you're in India. You're facing charges of elephants from the Mauryan Empire. Anything that fights your phalangists is going to lose. But these guys in the red cloaks are hypaspists. Their functional role is different. You can kind of think of them as a cross between a hoplite and a legionary. They're sort of a super light version of a hoplite. They play a supporting role, so your phalanxes are large, rigid, inflexible, and you'll occasionally have a gap in it, or an exposed flank. The hypaspists are good infantry to have sitting on the side to plug any holes, or rush into any problem spots, any weak spots. Because they have spears, they can throw spears, they're pretty fast moving. They're not very good in a prolonged engagement, but if you need some medium to light infantry in a spot you need them fast, hypaspists play the role really nicely, so it's good to have them sitting back in an area you think is going to be a problem spot. And at this point in the battle, we're pretty much unstoppable. All of Memnon's remaining forces are concentrated in one direction. We are slowly advancing with our phalanxes. We've got the river on our left. Memnon's dead. His cavalry advantage of his army is pretty much exhausted. You'll see in this one problem spot I allowed my men to get a little bit disorganized by the terrain, and they are completely useless. So that's just a minor hiccup, unfortunately. Your men can walk back a little bit, form a square again, and then stick them with their spears, and the cavalry are running again. We're going to see this behavior now. They're going to assault us with a few units at a time. We'll repulse them. They'll flee back to their main battle line. If they recover, we'll fight them again. If not, they will probably run like hell. So I've talked about cavalry, I've talked about the heavy pikemen, and I've talked a bit about hypaspists. I guess now it's time to talk about ranged units. They're pretty much useless, not only in this battle, but pretty much the whole campaign. At no point will you have the superiority in ranged attack, which means you're pretty much always on the attack. You can't just sit back and pelt the enemy from a distance, because that's what the Persians will do to you. Our ranged units in this case are 2 units of javelin men who are pretty decent against, ultra heavy cavalry like chariots or elephants. Pretty much useless against anything else because they're short range. We have some archers, but the archers really don't do very much damage. Somebody in the discussion asked me, who exactly am I making this narration for? Who am I making this Let's Play for? Is it the experienced Total War player, or is it someone who's completely new and unintroduced to the series? I agree it's very important to have in mind what your target audience is, but in this case, without knowing much more about who actually watches these things, I have to say that I make these things for me, but it's not the me as I am now. It's the me as I was at the beginning of Alexander, during my first playthrough through this game, because really I made a lot of naive mistakes. I made a lot of dumb choices.
The gods be praised! The enemy's hearts are full of fear, and now they flee! This is a
And that's it. That's the Battle of Granicus. I hope you don't mind me cutting out a couple minutes of mop-up, chasing bad guys around the map. At the end of this, I was really surprised I was able to beat it in about 10 minutes, even though the game gives us about an hour to do it. So, thanks for watching, everyone. This is Porkness, and I'll see you next time.
And here he is, this young man. He's not missed anything all day. The atmosphere is hushed. You can hear a pin drop. He's going for the rest. A lot of people wouldn't fancy using the rest at this point, but this young fellow relishes the task ahead of him.
Oh, calamity! Oh, ho, how, how!